Well, I'll never forget this. That old boy preached on hell for about 45 minutes. Oh my. He cried and preached on hell like he believed folks really went there. Amen. And listen, when he gave that invitation, he started preaching about the cross on the road to hell, and told me I didn't have to go there. That Jesus shed his blood that'll keep sinners out of hell. And that stuck in my mind. That stuck in my mind.
Another verse of an invitation song. The message, it was loud and long. A million thoughts raced through his head, but he just can't shake what the preacher said. He remembers the time before, got up and ran out the door. He wonders now what he should do. His sweaty hands grip the back of the pew. His heart is pounding deep inside, and he wishes he could run and hide, but he hears a voice say, "Come and pray." And this time nothing will stand in his way. Nothing makes heaven's angels rejoice like a sinner who's just made Jesus his choice. And nothing compares to the way that it feels to know a risen Savior and the love he reveals. To know a risen Savior, the love he reveals.
The third verse, just as I am, I slid under that altar.
On his knees with tears streaming down his face, he's just been saved by amazing grace. He stands and says as he looks around, I once was lost, but now I'm found. He sees everything from a different view, and deep inside he feels brand new. As brothers and sisters shake his hand, angels celebrating glory land. His brand new life had just begun, and he'd grow stronger in days to come. But he never dreamed there would come a day when he'd preach God's word to a crowd and say, nothing makes heaven's angels rejoice like a sinner who's just made Jesus his choice. And nothing compares to the way that it feels to know a risen Savior and the love he reveals. To know a risen Savior and the love he reveals. Another verse of an invitation song. The message, it was loud and long. A million thoughts raced through his head, but he just can't shake what the preacher said.
And there at that altar, this is what I said. I said, God, I know I'm a sinner. I know I'm going to hell, just like that preacher said. But Lord, I don't want to go. I said, God, he said, that preacher said, that the drunk blood would save me. I said, God, if I go to hell, I'll go trusting in the blood of Jesus Christ. I want to tell you, there's about 2 acres of heaven that came down in my soul.
Hello, this is Kevin on Resident Preacher. Just wanted to do another reading on here. We started out with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is where we wanted to start with the Gospels. It's about Jesus Christ, and we just wanted to learn more about him and who he was, who he is, and who he's going to be. But when we started reading, when I say we, I mean me and you, whoever you are. It started with the generations of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. So it started going down through the generations, and I thought we should check and see who all these people were, because it goes through Abraham, Isaac. So what we're doing is we're going to do starting in Genesis. We're going to go Genesis to Revelation. I went through chapter 1 through 12 yesterday. You can go back and look. I believe it's going to be saved on there for 7 more days if you want to get caught up. So we're going to be starting in chapter 13. As I go to Genesis chapter 13, this is not about what Bible you use. It's not about what church you go to. It's not about judgment. It's just about learning more and seeing what it says. That's all it's about. So just go along with me. I am using the King James Bible, and I know there's a lot of yays and nays and all of that kind of stuff, but it's not that difficult to understand, and I personally use it because I like how it reads. So chapter 13, verse 1, we're going to get right into it. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the south. Now, we're already talking about Abram, and we know, or maybe we don't know, that Abram is going to be Abraham. And Abraham is one of the first people that Matthew chapter 1 talks about. David, and then it says Abraham, because Abraham was before David. So that's why we're going back into Genesis to do that, to go through all of those. Again, this is for the people who don't believe. These are for the people that might believe. These are the people that just want to know more. This is for the people that has had Jesus jammed down their throat and just want to puke it out. And it is for everybody. And we just want to go through and just see what it says. And here we go again, chapter 13, verse 1. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the south. Because, to do a little bit of a recap, in Genesis 1, we talked about in the beginning, we had the first 7 days, and in those first 7 days was the creation of everything. We had the temptation of Adam and Eve. We had the birth of Cain and Abel. We had Cain slaying Abel. We had the generations of Abraham. We had the wickedness of man. We had the building of the ark, Moses building the ark. We had the flood. After the flood, we had the covenant with Noah. We had Noah's genealogy. We have Babel. And now we are at Abram and the journey of Abram. Verse 2, chapter 13, and Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold, and he went on his journeys from the south even to Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai, unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first, and there Abram called on the name of the Lord. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks, herds, and tents, and the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was a strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle. And the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled in the land. And Abram said to Lot, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren. Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, for me, If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right, and if thou depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plains of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest into Zoar. So it was beautiful. Lot was seeing all those beautiful lands over there, that his cattle are going to flourish. There's cities that are close to it that he could go into and get his goods. So he took the obvious choice and took the good lands, and then Abram took the other lands. And it alluded to Sodom and Gomorrah, which we are going to read more about here in the future. Verse 11, then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves the one from the other. Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent towards Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. And the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art northward, and southward, and eastward, and westward. For all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it, and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee. Then Abram removed his tent, and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord. So the Lord is telling Abram that even though you're not in that pretty land, all of it's going to be yours one day. Chapter 14, and it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Iraq, king of Eleazar, Shador Omer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, that these made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, and Shem-Eber, king of Zebulun, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar. I know that was a mouthful. And just so you know, I'm using a Bible that is an older Bible, and I mentioned this on the other broadcast, was that I have the one that has, like, if it's a straight line over an E, that means you pronounce the E. If it's a lack of a better word, a smiley face, I know that it has a proper name. But like Gomorrah is that A, because you don't say Gomorrah. It helps me a lot read through this. Verse 3, all these were joined together in the vale of Sodom, which is the salt sea. Verse number 4, 12 years they served Shador Omer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year came Shador and the kings that were with him, and smote the Raphaims in Ashtaroth, Carmaim, and the Zuzams in Ham, and for the Emims in Shavia, Kirathaim. And the Horites in their Mount Seir unto Elipharan, which is by the wilderness. And they returned and came to Anmisaphat, which is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites that dwelt in Hazela Tamar. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboram, and the king of Bela, the same is Zoar, and they joined battle with them in the vale of Sodom. So there's basically what it's saying is there's war in the land. They're all fighting against each other. And that broke down all the different areas and all the different kingdoms in that area, and which ones were fighting against each other. So then we have, where did I leave off? I think I left off at 9. Then Shedar the king of Elam, and with Tidal, king of nations, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Eleazar, 4 kings with 5. And the vale of Sodom was full of slime pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there, and that remained fled to the mountain. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their victuals, and went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came one that had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, the brother of Nahor, and these were confederate with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them into Dan. And he delivered himself against them, he and his servants by night, and smote them, and pursued them unto Heba, which is on the left hand of Damascus. So what I find funny here is, or not funny, but interesting, is that even though Lot picked all the good land, and the land that he thought he was going to prosper in, and the land that he thought that all of his animals were going to do best in, all of his herds, all of his cattle, so on and so forth, and then Abram took all the deserted place, Abram still had to come in and help Lot, and was there for Lot, and he didn't hold a grudge just because he made that decision. He still loved his nephew Lot, and was there to help him and protect him and do whatever it took to take care of him. Verse 16, and he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot, and his goods, and the women also, and the people. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer, and of the kings that were with him at the valley of Shevel, which is the kings of Del. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him, and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, a possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thine hand. And he gave him tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, Give me the persons. And the kings of Sodom, okay, so we're switching here. The kings of Sodom said unto Abram, Give me the persons, and take the goods to thyself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up mine hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latchet, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abram rich, save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me, Anor, Iskal, and Mamre, let them take their portion. So what he was saying was that he didn't want the glory. He didn't want to say that he went down there and fought and took, and what he just wanted to put forth was that he was doing what the Lord had commanded, and the Lord did it. He didn't do it. He was giving proper respect to the Lord and not taking it for himself. Chapter 15. After these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. And Abram said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is this Eleazar of Damascus? And Abram said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. So if you remember earlier when we were reading in a couple chapters ago, his wife, Rachel, was barren, could not have children. So that's what he's saying now, is he has nobody to be heir to him. Verse 5, And he brought him forth abroad and said, Look now towards heaven and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto them, So shall thy seed be. And he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur, out of the Chaldees, to give thee this land, to inherit it. And he said, Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, Take me a heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these, and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another. But the birds divided he not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also the nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy father in peace, thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And it came to pass that when the sun went down, and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. In the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, Unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. The Kenites and the Kenizzites and the Cadmonites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Rephaims and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Girgashites and the Jebusites. Okay, so that was a lot. Chapter 15 was going over the covenant between him and Abram, and Abram's offspring, Abram's generations going down, telling them what is going to be going on, what will be. And the big thing that I take out of that, and he believed the Lord, and he counted on him for righteousness. So he believed in what the Lord had said, and he took it for what the Lord had said, and he just kept moving forward. So chapter 16, if you're just joining us, if there's anybody listening or just stopping by and seeing what this is about, we are going through the Old Testament. We are doing a daily read, Genesis through Revelation. The reason why we're going through the Old Testament, it's not to study specific things in the Old Testament. What it is for is so we can get to the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, because we were going to start, just when I say we, I'm talking about me and whoever is out there. We were going to start in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I started reading Matthew, and it started breaking down the generations of Jesus, and that isn't going to make sense to a lot of people. Who is David? Who is Asa? Who are these people? So I'm going to do a daily read of going through the Bible, and we're going to go over who those people are. So when we're in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, we can remember, oh yeah, that was David. That was David who slew the giant. That was David that did whatever he did. That was Asa who did whatever he did. And in going through that genealogy in Matthew, Abram is actually the oldest and the first one that is talked about. So now we are getting into that right now, because Abram, in the future here, will be called Abraham. So that is the first one mentioned in Matthew. I just wanted to point that out. So when we are going through Matthew, which is going to be on Wednesday nights, we're going to do a deep dive into the Gospels, not to tell you what church you should go to, what Bible you should read, what you should and shouldn't do, but to learn about Jesus, to know about Jesus, about what he was, what he is, what he's doing now, and what he's going to do in the future. All right? So chapter 16. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abram, Behold, now the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her handmaid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was displeased in her eyes. Okay, so let's just get through this, because I don't want people to get hung up on things in the Old Testament and not hear as we continue to read. So, is what Sarah did right or wrong? Is that okay now as opposed to it not being okay? Well, of course it's not okay now. It's illegal in many states and so on and so forth. And this was a time when they were doing that. Does that mean that Abram was right in doing it? No. Does it mean that Sarai was right in doing that? No. But that is what they did. Okay? And they're human. They're not perfect. They're doing what people did back then. So let's not get hung up on that kind of stuff. Let's just keep going forward and find out who these men were and what happened to these men, so we can get to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and go through and learn more about Jesus. All right? Any comments out there about that? Just chat them if you have them. And then here pretty soon we're going to have a spot where you can go to our Twitch page and you can hit question and answer. It's going to be named something like that. And we're going to have a night where we do question and answer, but we're not there yet, but we're working on it. Verse 4. And he went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said unto Abram, my wrong be upon thee. See, so she knew it was wrong. She recognized that it was wrong. I have given my maid unto my bosom, and when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between me and thee. But Abram said unto Sarai, behold, thy maid is in thy hand. Do to her as it please thee. And when Sarai dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. So Sarai went to Abram and said, hey, I shouldn't have done this. I'm despised in her eyes now. And I did a wrong thing. What are we going to do about it? And Abram's saying, she's your handmaid. Do with what you want with her. You're the one that brought her to me, basically. And then so she fled from her face. So the handmaid fled from her face, Hagar. And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way of Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, whence camest thou, and whither wilt thou go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarai. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Return to thy mistress, and submit thyself under her hands. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. And he will be a wild man, his hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. And she called the name of the Lord that spake unto her, Thou God seest me, for she said, Have I also here looked after him that seeth me? Wherefore the well was called Beer-lahai. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Berad. And Hagar bare Abram a son, and Abram called his son's name, which Hagar bare, Ishmael. And Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bare Ishmael to Abram. So basically, God had already told Abram that he was going to give him a child because he knew that he was going to multiply and be fruitful and cover all the land, and all of his would be from the north, south, east, west, and all that stuff that we just read. Man took it in his own hands with Sarai, and Abram had a baby with Hagar, the handmaid, and then Sarai got upset about it. Hagar took off. God found Hagar in the woods and said, no, you're going to bear a son. You need to go back. You're going to bear a son. His name's going to be Ishmael. And he's going to be the ruler over many himself. So there's a lot of speculation, or there's a lot of talk, or there's wisdom in who that is, through lineage, who Ishmael and who Ishmael's family is and who they are today, and so on and so forth, but I'm going to leave that alone. So chapter 17. Actually, I'm going to get a drink here. Now, I know that we are covering a lot, and we are going over things that people are going to have questions about and people don't understand. But remember, we're just taking a big picture. We're doing a big overview. Okay, we're not getting down into the nitty gritty of the Old Testament here. We're doing a big overview of the Old Testament. So please understand that's what I'm doing. I'm not just trying to sit here and read the New Testament to you, just not trying to read Genesis to you. We do need to find out who some of these men are and what they did, and so on and so forth. But we're not pulling things out of there and going to preach on it or beat it to death. We're doing just a big overview. Okay. Chapter 17. Chapter 17. And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, so 99, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God, walk before me and be thou perfect. When he says perfect here, he's not talking about sinless or doing evil. He's talking about in this word perfect. I use two things. I use a Bible and I use a dictionary. Okay, and I use a dictionary for this time and period where that perfect and what that perfect could mean. And that perfect means striving to be perfect. Okay, verse 2, and I will make my covenant between me and thee, okay, me and you, and will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, as for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Neither shall my name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham. Okay, Abraham, the first person that we hear about in Matthew, chapter 1, Abraham. For a father of many nations have I made thee. Verse 6, and I will make thee exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee, and their generations, for an everlasting covenant, and be a God unto thee, and to thy seed after thee. And I will give unto thee, and to thy seed after thee, the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said unto Abraham, thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you, and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised, and ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generations, he that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed. He that is born in thy house. Well, before we get to that, I just had a baby boy, so this was really interesting to me. Yes, I did get my son circumcised, and because it was just my personal choice to do so, and how I think. But it was interesting to me on the 8th day because I was curious on, well, why did they do it on the 8th day? Why did he do it on the 8th day? Was there something significant about the 8th day? But it was on the 8th day because that is when, and I can't think of what it's called, but it's the thing that your body gives off that clots your blood. On the 8th day is when it is most powerful and released. And that's why you get circumcised on the 8th day. Just a little fact that I came across when I was looking into circumcision. So anyways, verse 13, he that is born in thy house and he that is bought with thy money must needs to be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the circumcised man child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He hath broken my covenant. And God said unto Abraham, now I got it saying Abram, I got to say Abraham, as for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be. And I will bless her and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed, and said in his heart, shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear? And Abraham said unto God, O that Ishmael might live before thee. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. Isaac is the second person that we see in Matthew in the genealogy of Jesus. Verse 20, and as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this set time in the next year. So I jumped ahead on Ishmael. I've read the Bible through a few times, so I kind of already knew what was going on there, so I jumped ahead. Sorry about that. Verse 22, and he left off talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and all that were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the selfsame day, as God had said unto him. And see, so he's still taking care of Abraham. Abraham's still in the camp. And Abraham said, 90 years old and 9, and Abraham was 90 years old and 9 when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. In the selfsame day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son. And all the men of his house, born in the house and bought with money of the stranger, were circumcised with him. Okay, so everybody got circumcised that was in his house. That was a follower of God. And the Lord appeared unto him, chapter 18, verse 1. And the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes, and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door, and bowed himself toward the ground, and said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your hearts. After that ye shall pass on, for therefore ye are come to your servant. And they said, So do as thou hast said. Now, to me, I think it always seems like when an angel of God, or when God in any sort shows up or shows you anything, or shows them anything, I should say, that they know exactly who it is. That's very interesting to me. I'm going to read verse 4 again. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your hearts. After that ye shall pass on, for therefore are ye come to your servant. And they said, So do as thou hast said. And Abraham hastened into the tent unto Sarah, and said, Make ready quickly the 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes upon the hearth. And Abraham ran unto the herd, and fetched a calf tender and good, and gave it unto a young man, and he hastened to dress it. And he took butter and milk and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. And they said unto him, Where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, Behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life. And lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door which was behind him. So I will certainly return thee according to the time of thy life, meaning that she can have children again. Verse 11. And Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of woman. So again, they're just repeating themselves a lot. The scriptures are repeating themselves a lot. Like I talked about yesterday, that's how you learn, that's how you understand, that's how you can remember things, is repetition, repetition, repetition. And there's a lot of that in the Bible. And that is the reason, I believe. Verse 12, Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord, being old also? And the Lord said unto Abraham, Wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I in a surety bear a child, which am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? A lot of people preach on that. At the time appointed, I will return unto thee according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. Then Sarah denied, saying, I laughed not, for she was afraid. And he said, Nay, but thou didst laugh. And the men rose up from thence and looked towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him? For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord, to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him. And the Lord said, Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me, and if not, I will know. So basically, we're going to go down to Sodom and Gomorrah, and we're going to see if everything I have heard or seen is accurate and correct for my own eyes, and I will know whether or not it is or not. Verse 22, And the men turned their faces from thence and went towards Sodom, but Abraham stood yet before the Lord. Get a drink here. And Abraham drew near and said, Wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Basically, are you just going to take everybody out, even though there might be some righteous there? Peradventure, there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are therein? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked. That be far from thee. Shalt not the judge of all the earth do right? He's questioning God or the Lord. And the Lord said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, Behold now, I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, which am but dust and ashes. Peradventure there shall lack 50 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, If I find there 45, I will not destroy it. And he spake unto him yet again, and said, Peradventure there shall be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for 40's sake. And he said unto him, Oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Peradventure there shall 30 be found there. And he said, I will not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, Behold, now I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord. Peradventure there shall be 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy if 20 for 20's sake. And he said, Oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet before this once. Peradventure 10 shall be found, or 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And the Lord went his way as soon as he had left communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned into his place. I thought that very bold of Abraham. He just kept questioning him, kept questioning him, and kept questioning him. Chapter 19. And there came two angels to Sodom and Lot, seeing them. Okay, let's start over. And there, chapter 19, verse 1. And there came two angels to Sodom and even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, we know who Lot is, right? Abraham's nephew, the one that took the better of the two lands, and then started living down in Sodom, where sin abounded, where there was sin everywhere. And now the Lord came down there, and they find Lot sitting there, or actually the two angels, to Sodom in the evening, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them. And he bowed himself with his face toward the ground, and he said, Behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go on your ways. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the streets all night. Lot knew who they were. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both young and old, all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after him, and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have two daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. Okay, now, just like we talked about before, that's twisted, okay? That obviously that's not PC, for lack of a better word. It's just not right. But where he was living in Sodom, we don't know what exactly was going on there. But in our eyes today, now, that's just wrong. That's how I feel about it. But it is something that happened and something that they did. Verse 9, and they said, Stand back. And they said again, This one fellow came into to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now will we deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hands, and pulled Lot into the house to them, and shut to the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men, said unto Lot, Hast thou here any besides son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxed great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his into his sons-in-law. There's a lot can be said there about the city, but I digress. Verse 15, and when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he was lingering, the men, I'm going to stop there for a second. Verse 16. I'd like to hear from people if this is something that they would want. On Sundays, I might dig a little deeper into some topics. Normally, it's going to be about the Gospels, but maybe lean more along the sides of preaching rather than teaching and reading. Maybe like on Sundays, do have a set time to do that. If anybody would like that, let me know. Or if anybody think there'd be any interest in that, let me know. Verse 16, and while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of the 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth, and set him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life. Look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, O not so, my lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me, and I die. Behold, now this city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. O let me escape thither. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. These 2 men just got him out of Sodom that just got destroyed, and he's telling them where he would rather go, because he's still afraid that something might happen to him, not realizing that he has protection. Okay. Verse 21, and he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city, for the which thou hast spoken. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham gat up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Lord. And he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in the which Lot dwelt. And Lot went up out of Zoar, and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him. And he feared to dwell in Zoar, and he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. Okay. So now we're going to get into some more weird stuff. Kind of like that, the same thing with Noah and his sons, in a way. So verse 31, and the firstborn said unto the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. We know that there is in Zoar and in all these other places, but whatever. Verse 32, Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. And it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose, and they lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. Okay, when they were in Sodom, Lot was going to do some weird things with his daughters and just basically give them over to the people. That was his mindset. So obviously the mindset of his daughters isn't going to be the same mindset that, or they would have the same kind of mindset that isn't how we think nowadays, today, or in the present. So I just wanted to hit that because it's probably going to come up, but we're going to keep on keeping on. Don't get stuck on those things. And the firstborn bare a son and called his name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites, and to this day. And when we talk about the Canaanites and the Moabites, you're going to see all that through here also. And the younger, she also bare a son and called his name Benamai. The same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. Where are we at here? It's about 2:53. At 3 o'clock, we're going to take a little intermission. Chapter 20. And Abraham journeyed from thence towards the south country, and dwelled between Kadesh and Shur, and sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarah his wife, She is my sister. And Abimelech king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. Here we go, doing the same thing they did before. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night, and said to him, Behold, thou art but a dead man, for the woman which thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife. But Abimelech had not come near her. And he said, Lord, wilt thou slay also a righteous nation? Said he not unto me, She is my sister? And she, even she herself said, He is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and in innocency of my hands have I done this. And God said unto him in a dream, Yea, I know that thou didst this in the integrity of thy heart, for I also withheld thee from sinning against me. Therefore suffer I thee not to touch her. Now therefore restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet, and he shall pray for thee, and thou shalt live. And if thou restore her not, know thou that thou shalt surely die, thou and all that are thine. Therefore Abimelech rose early in the morning, and called all his servants, and told all these things in their ears, and the men were sore afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham, and said unto him, What hast thou done unto us? And what have I offended thee, that thou hast brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? Thou hast done deeds unto me that ought not to be done. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, What sawest thou that thou hast done this thing? And Abraham said, Because I thought surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will slay me for my wife's sake. And yet indeed she is my sister. Last time I talked about this, that there was more to it in the relative situation with Sarah and Abraham. Verse 12, And yet indeed she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. And she became my wife. And it came to pass, when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said unto her, This is thy kindness which thou shalt show unto me. At every place whither we shall come, say of me, He is my brother. And Abimelech took sheep and oxen and men servants and women servants, and gave them unto Abraham, and restored him Sarah his wife. And Abimelech said, Behold, my land is before thee, dwell where it pleaseth thee. And unto Sarah he said, Behold, I have given my brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Behold, he is to thee a covering of the eyes unto all that are with thee, and with all others. Thus she was reproved. So Abraham prayed unto God, and God healed Abimelech and his wife and his maidservant, and they bare children. For the Lord had fast closed all of the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. All right, so that was chapter 20. We're going to start chapter 21. Like I said, we learned more about Sarah and Abraham's relationship, because I'm sure when we were reading that earlier, it's like, why would he do that? Why would he do that? And I guess that's what in today's age we would call a white lie. But he was protecting himself and his family, he felt. That's why he did that all of these times. And now we find out that Abraham and Sarah are basically stepbrother, stepsister. Same brother, different mothers. All right, so if you're just tuning in, or if you turned in just a little bit ago and you want to know what we're doing here, we are about spreading the good news. The good news is the Gospels. Gospels is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and it's about Jesus. It's about what Jesus did, what Jesus is, who Jesus was, who Jesus is, what Jesus is going to do. It's about what he did for us. And we're going to take a little intermission here, and we will be back real soon. I got something for you to watch. It's kind of funny. The Andy Griffith church service. I'll be back in a little bit. Thanks. All right, everybody. Back. Going to pick up on chapter 21. And just as a recap, we've just been reading basically about Abraham. Started out as Abram. Then Abram had Ishmael through Hagar, and Abraham kept going into these cities and saying, Sarah, tell them that you're my sister, which technically she was stepsister, same father, different mothers. Talked about Sarah having Isaac. So Abraham and Isaac are both in the genealogy of Jesus Christ that we will get to on Wednesdays in Matthew, going through the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And I'm really excited about that. So I don't have a set time yet, but we will get a set time so people know what to look for on Wednesday nights. But that's what all this is about, is trying to get to those Gospels, trying to spread the good news. Who is Jesus? Just wanted to talk about it, wanting to get maybe a deeper understanding, give you some information to make a decision, one way or the other. If you believe, if you don't believe, or why do you believe, or why you don't believe, or why should you believe, or whatever, wherever you're at. And we just want to go through it and push forward. And the reason why, if you're just jumping on here, reason why that we're going through Genesis is because we want to know about the genealogy of Jesus, which starts out in Matthew. And again, we know who Abraham is when they talk about Abraham in Matthew now. We know who Isaac is, and obviously we're going to be reading a lot more about Isaac here to come, soon to come. And we've been on here about an hour. I'm going to probably read a couple more chapters when we get to the sacrifice of Isaac, which that is coming. And then I'll come back tomorrow and we'll do this again. So chapter 21. Genesis chapter 21, verse 1. And the Lord visited Sarah. Let's see here. And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did unto Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bare Abraham a son in his old age at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bare to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac, being 8 days old, as God had commanded him. So basically, we read in the past when you're supposed to circumcise newborns. It's a covenant between man and God, and so on and so forth. So verse 5, and Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him. And Sarah said, God made me to laugh, so that all here will laugh with me. And she said, who would have said unto Abraham that Sarah should have given children suck? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman. She just can't get over that, can she? Cast out that bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. It was his son. And God said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy bondwoman. In all that Sarah hath said unto thee, hearken unto her voice, for in Isaac shall thy seed be called. And also of the son of the bondwoman shall I make a nation, because he is thy seed. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and took bread and a bottle of water, and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And I believe that we read back a little bit, and Hagar is 13 years older than Isaac. And the water was spent in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs, and she went and sat her down over against him a good way off, as it were a bow shot, for she said, let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him and lifted up her voice and wept. She thought that Ishmael was going to die, because she didn't have no water, didn't have anything to take care of him. And God heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven, and said unto her, what aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the bottle with water, and gave the lad drink. And God was with the lad, and she grew, and dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. She was Egyptian, if you remember. Hagar was. And it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and Phicol, the chief captain of his hosts, spake unto Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all that thou doest. Now therefore swear unto me here by God, that thou wilt not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's sons, but according to the kindness that I have done unto thee. Thou shalt do unto me and to the land wherein thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of a well of water, which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. And Abimelech said, I wot not who hath done this thing, neither didst thou tell me, neither yet heard I of it, but today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen, and gave them unto Abimelech, and both of them made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, what mean these 7 ewe lambs which thou hast set by themselves? And he said, for these 7 ewe lambs shalt thou take of my hand, that they may be a witness unto me that I have digged this well. Wherefore he called that place Beersheba, because there they swear both of them. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. Then Abimelech rose up, and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, and they returned into the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a grove in Beersheba, and called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham sojourned in the Philistines' land many days. All right, chapter 22. And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham, and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Behold, here am I. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there up a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and saddled his ass, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood from the burnt offering, and rose up, and went unto the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes, and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and die, and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son, and he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they both went, and both of them together. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold, the fire and the wood, both where is the lamb? But where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. I know it doesn't say it, and this is Kevin. This is me. I'd be saying, what the heck? You gave me the son of my old age, and so on and so forth. I'd just be saying, what the heck? But anyways, verse 9. And they came to the place which God had told him of, and Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him, for now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah Jireh. And it is said to this day, In the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. And the angel of the Lord called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time, and said, By myself have I sworn with the Lord, because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore. And thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemy. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned unto his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. And it came to pass after these things, that it was told Abraham, saying, Behold, Milcah, she hath also borne children unto brother Nahor, Huz his firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Kemuel the father of Aram, and Chesel, and Hazel, and Pildash, and Jidlah, and Bethuel. And Bethuel begot Rebekah. These 8 Milcah did bear to Nahor, Abraham's brother. And his concubine, whose name was Ramah, she bare also Teba, and Gamar, and Thahash, and Mecah. So chapter 23. So now we saw that God tempted Abraham to see if he would actually go forth and sacrifice his son for God. How faithful was he to God? And obviously he was, because Abraham built an altar and he was ready to do it. He stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son. And thank goodness the angel of the Lord, that was me, called unto him out of the heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do anything unto him, for now I know that thou fearest God. So Abraham's talked about all through the Old Testament and the New Testament. And he is also, if anybody who's familiar with the Bible, in Hebrews chapter 11, he is one of the men of faith, because that's called the faith chapter, because it says in faith, all of those. So by faith, he was going to sacrifice his son, but God gave him a different sacrifice, which has a whole nother meaning that we will look at when we get into Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I think that's going to do it for today. If you have any questions, we're going to, for now, you could just throw them up into the chat, and hopefully I'll see them. But otherwise, what we need to do is I'm working on button or something which you can press, and it's going to take you right to a spot to our website where you can ask questions. We will have like a question and answer time set aside that we can go through all those questions and answers. But for now, if you want to stick them up in chat, I will try to get them and read them. I'm new to all this, so still trying to watch everything and work everything. But we'll get it. And if you are out there and you are listening and watching, I appreciate you. Hang in there with me. I'm excited for Wednesday night to start reading in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John so we can learn more about Jesus and who he is. And again, we're going through the daily reading of Genesis through Revelation, mainly the Old Testament, and trying to find out who these men in Jesus' genealogy, because in Matthew chapter 1 it starts out the generations of Jesus. So the first person that's talked about in there is Abraham, and we just learned about Abraham. So now we know who Abraham is and who he is to God. Abraham to God is a man of faith. So again, appreciate you being here. It's a beautiful day here. I don't know where you are, but if you can get out and enjoy it, go out, enjoy it, and have a great night. Talk to you soon. Hopefully I'll be here tomorrow, and we will start on chapter 22.
On the Isle of Patmos, John began to say, the Spirit, it came on me, it was on the Lord's day, when I heard a voice behind me as a mighty rushing wind. Oh, the voice of God as a trumpet, and these are the words he said, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I am first, I'm last, and I'm the answer for your sin. I am he who died and was buried. I am the one who rose again. John, tell it to the churches. I am. Oh, the backside of the desert, oh, Moses began to pray. When Pharaoh comes asking, Lord, what should I say? To the land of milk and honey, God's children will go away. The am that I am has sent me, so let my people go today. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I am first, I'm last, and I'm the answer for your sin. I am he who died and was buried. I am the one who rose again. Go tell it to the churches. I am. When you're thirsty, I'm the water. When you're hungry, I'm the bread. And when you're bound down in your sorrow, I am the lifter of your head. When you're lost in sin, I'm your Savior, and I am your closest friend. So don't worry about nothing.